Hey there. So today we're going to be talking about your Chihuahua's emotional bucket, and we're going to be having a look at why this matters, what pays into it, and what we can do about it. So, what is your Chihuahua's emotional bucket? Now, if you work with children, you may be familiar with this analogy because they use it in schools, where emotions and events and things pay into this bucket until it fills and fills, and then you get an overspill behavior, which is when the child, just has nothing left and cannot deal or process any more information. This is your typical tantrum, okay? Very few people actually apply this to their dogs, but dogs have an emotional bucket as well. Now, how big or how small that bucket is will definitely be impacting your Chihuahua's behavior. Now, traditionally, they do have quite a small bucket and they do have quite a small hole that allows these emotions to drain out. So, your Chihuahua's emotional bucket is probably going to fill up fairly quickly, and they do take slightly longer to calm down because they are very excitable dogs generally. They are very prone to being triggered by movement and noise and events. So, their bucket will be filling up very, very quickly. So, what's in your Chihuahua's emotional bucket will most definitely be affecting their behavior. So, what pays into your Chihuahua's emotional bucket? Now, this is quite interesting because there's some stuff that pays into the bucket that kind of just doesn't seem to make sense to us. One of them could very easily be your dog walk. Is your dog walk a stressful situation for your dog? Are they barking at everything they see? If they are, this will be a huge bucket filler. Okay. And then the emotion will probably pretty much stay with them for the most of the day. And then they'll be bringing that back into the house, barking at the noises outside, chasing birds in the garden, barking in the garden. So you can kind of see how the emotional bucket will start to fill and how we're going to get these output behaviors. Other things that pay into them could be visitors coming to the house, the postman coming, people walking past your window, trip to the vets maybe. And there's just kind of all sorts of little things that will be going in there that possibly we as people aren't really aware of. One of the really interesting things that goes into it is a multi-dog household. So if you have more than one dog, then each one of your dogs is going to have an emotional bucket, and then they are going to have their own things that go into their bucket, but they also then create a household bucket. Now, if you've got more than one Chihuahua, you will be very familiar with the Chihuahua feedback loop, where one dog starts and then all the other dogs join in and they start charging around like crazy. Nobody really knows what they're barking at. No one knows what's going on, but it's one dog has been triggered, then their bucket instantly fills up. They get a massive reaction. Then the noise that they make, the movement that they create, then triggers all the other dogs whose buckets then fill up themselves. So if you have more than one dog, you're probably already reasonably familiar with how this actually works. Now, one of the reasons having understanding your child's emotional bucket is helpful because it helps us manage it a little bit better. It helps us understand why our chihuahua is giving us the output behaviors they're giving. And then we can make adjustments to the environment that they're in so that they are not so easily triggered. So we're not having so many big issues with them. So I'm going to have a look at, let's imagine you're taking your dog to the vet. You're taking them just for a checkup, nothing serious. So we are looking at the stages that are involved in that trip to the vet and the effect that that is going to have on their emotional bucket. So let's have a look at, first of all, putting on their harness. Some dogs are okay with that. Some dogs not so keen. Arlo, he'll let me put his harness on, but he's not a fan. And that most definitely does start to kind of create a little bit of emotional temperature for him. Then we're going to go out the front door. So going out the front door for sure causes dogs anxiety because doors are they're quite a high anxiety point for your in the house for pretty much most dogs because so much happens around them. So you're going out the front door where the environment is going to change. So again, your more goes into your chihuahua's bucket. You're then maybe going to get in the car, or maybe you're going to walk along a road where there's cars going past. Again, all of that goes into your Chihuahua's bucket. Now, they might not be showing any massive output behaviors at this stage, but it's all going in. You then get out the car, you get into the vets. Again, that will be going into your Chihuahua's bucket. And then there might be dogs in the waiting room or a cat in the waiting room, which would for sure upset Minnie. Again, there is all of that's going into the bucket. The bucket is filling up. There is very little opportunity for it to be draining. So by the time you get in to see the vet goes to examine your dog, and then your dog will respond with a snap or a bite because he just cannot process anymore or deal with any more events. So it's not all about the event where your Chihuahua snapped or bit. It's about everything that went before it that led your Chihuahua to be in that emotional state at that time. So one of the other things that will be definitely paying into your Chihuahua's bucket are training methods that people use. So if you're using things like air horns or e-collars or cans of coins or squirting your dog with water, all of that will be being paid into your dog's bucket and creating a huge amount of stress around whatever the trigger is that you're trying to get them to not bark at. So how you train your dog is really fundamental to how calm and how relaxed they're actually going to be in the household. The emotional bucket doesn't just affect behavior, it also affects long-term health because a dog that is constantly in a high state of arousal is not getting more time in the parasympathetic nervous state. The parasympathetic nervous state is where your healing takes place, is where your learning takes place, digestion and calmness. So if your dog is in a constant state of high arousal, long term, this is going to have a detrimental effect on their health in exactly the same way it does for us, because we've got all of this cortisol, the stress hormone cortisol sloshing around in our system. We are not getting a chance to relax, to heal. And you'll find with your dog that this is what is creating these constant up at every noise, barking at every sound. So a dog with a high emotional or a full emotional bucket is likely to be a dog that's running around the house like crazy, is barking at every noise that it hears, is unable to cope on walks because it's barking and lunging at other dogs, may not even want to go out for a walk. Probably for the boys, there's going to be more marking in the house because marking is an excitement behavior. So they hear a trigger, they hear a noise, they bark at it, and they will mark up something. So understanding what is in your Chihuahua's bucket and where they are emotionally is going to be key to helping us start to modify our Chihuahua's behavior. Because of the nature of a Chihuahua and the fact that they are quite excitable dogs, they do tend to have quite a small bucket. So what we want to do is we want to help our dogs grow a more robust bucket so that they are not so triggered by noises, so they're not constantly in this high state of arousal and barking and responding to every sound that they hear. So what I want you to do is start to look at your Chihuahua's day from their point of view. And I want you to have a look at the triggers and the things that are happening throughout the day that are going to be paying into their bucket. Have you got visitors coming? Have you got people coming to the house? Are there young children running around creating lots of movement? Is your dog overtired? How are they coping with their walks? So all of these things are going to be paying in to your Chihuahua's emotional bucket. And once we understand that, we can start to manage it. Now, I'm not talking about making the turning yourself into a hermit, never going out and not having anybody come to the house, but you can start to manage these environments so that your dog is not getting the opportunity to interact with them. Because if they're interacting with people coming in the door every day, then they are also rehearsing that behavior every day. So the bucket around the door is always going to be full. So for instance, using the door as an analogy, I would then prevent my dog from accessing the door. Now, there is actually a video on here about behavior around doors, so you can go and have a look at that. But I would prevent my dog from having access to the front door. I would make sure that they have an activity to do when someone comes in the front door, like a lick mat or a snaffle mat, etc., to break up the rehearsal of that crazy excitement. one of the key things that you can do to help your Chihuahua empty their bucket is make sure that they get plenty of rest. Now, if you haven't already, go and have a look at the 3 tips to calmness, and that will give you an idea of how to calm your Chihuahua, how to create active rest for your Chihuahua, and how to give them appropriate activities to do that will most definitely help them empty their bucket. So I hope that's been helpful, and I hope that you understand a little bit more about why your Chihuahua is doing and behaving the way that they're doing. And now, by looking at your daily routine, you can start to manage the situation and manage their day a little bit better so that their bucket is not always so full. Check out the calmness video so you get some ideas about how you can introduce a calming protocol for your Chihuahua so that you can help them shift from this sympathetic state where they are just in full flight or flight all the time and shift over to a parasympathetic state, thus emptying their bucket. So I hope you found this useful. Check out the other videos. Please subscribe to our channel and like the videos because it helps us get ahead of the algorithm, and then it helps us create content to help other people. So please like and please subscribe. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I will come back to you. So ta-ta for now, and I look forward to seeing you again. Take care. Bye-bye.